Hi, I'm Bobby Maxner. I'm here to present the organizational impact portion of our group presentation for DNP 709 Innovation and Leadership course at Arizona State University. So the problem that we were presented with is a large urban hospital that had overcrowding in the emergency department, in part due to psychiatric patients being overcrowded and as called boarding in the ED because they did not have a place to go, and it had been decided that they needed to have an inpatient bed. So also the nurses were leaving because they didn't feel able to deal with the situation, both the crowding and the care of the psychiatric patients. People are frustrated, not knowing how to deal with the situation, and the patients and families were not happy, as shown by HCAP scores. So that was the problem that we were presented with. We decided to go ahead and conduct a preliminary investigation, provide improved training for the emergency department staff, create an appropriate milieu for psychiatric patients, bring in specialty psychiatric providers, and use some other units or space in order to hold patients when appropriate in the hospital. And also we coordinated with the community to find out which places we could work with on a step down type of situation if they didn't need to be in the emergency room anymore. So these changes would create a lot of change in the facility, both foreseen and unforeseen, including changes to the buildings, changes in the spaces that are used, patient care, patient throughput, the culture, and human resources, both the department and the staff. So in the process of doing all these, most of the original problems will be addressed, but there will be some unintended consequences as well. And the potential value to the organization includes both the intended and unintended consequences. So whenever there's change, there's opportunity for more change. And some things may seem like they're very beneficial and some may not, but it's always an opportunity to have more innovation and create more change. So the intended consequences were education and training, which I mentioned, and we would have behavioral health nurses come into the ED and be trained in the ED, and those nurses can provide training. Hopefully some of the ED staff is interested in learning about behavioral health and being co-trained in both areas. So those behavioral health nurses can train the emergency department nurses in behavioral health nursing. There's also a new space that we were able to utilize on the same floor for those patients who don't need to be in the actual emergency department anymore. So it'd be the less acute patients, and in there they have like a day room and a TV and some games, books, things to do. They can have visitors. And we also improved the screening process, had consistent guidelines and a triage tool. We trained everybody in that and brought in specialists, so physician assistants that have training or experience in psychiatric care, psychiatric nurse practitioners, and psychiatrists to see the patients on a regular basis while they're in the emergency room. So this way, instead of it just being decided that they need inpatient care and they're just waiting for an inpatient bed in the emergency room, they can get regular care. They can get started on their meds. Some of them may be able to go home. Some may be able to go to the step down in the community who we worked with. Some may be discharged with outpatient services. And so this has improved the number of patients waiting in the ED a great deal. So I think I've covered all of the intended consequences. Well, those changes that we made resulted in better care for the patients. Like I mentioned, reduced number of days. The staff turnover was decreased because they felt better able to care for these patients. And there's also increased revenue due to the HCAP scores improving. The unintended consequences are going to be overcrowding in the ED continues because now that it's a better place to go, it's known as the psych ED, and a lot of more patients come there. Also, since we were unable to build a separate space, as we saw in the video that was presented, there's still crowding in the actual original emergency room because some of the patients still have to stay in the ED. They're not appropriate yet for care in the area of the hospital that's outside of the ED, because that area cannot deal with psychiatric emergencies, doesn't have all the dangerous items removed and things like that. Also, the hospital has increased its adaptive capacity. So in the book they talk about adaptive capacity and how change is the norm. So this is one step in the right direction for that facility to be able to deal with change on a more regular basis. And then also creating a safe environment. Since we talk to the staff ahead of time, they feel safe to say what they think about issues and to come up with solutions, because in this case they had input and changes were actually made. So that's encouraging, and everyone feels like they can discuss things. And then the cultural transformation has to do with the Institute of Medicine calls for this in its 2001 report. Questionable how much this has been implemented in practice, but hopefully it will be more so in the future. And so the organizations featured in the book that I mentioned, Pursuing the Triple Aim, all had 3 aims, which is improving the experience of care, improving the health of the populations, and decreasing per capita costs. Pretty much a recipe for success, wouldn't you think? So in our example, all of these would be met. The patient care was increased. We did outreach to the community, and because there is more patients coming in and they're being helped in a more efficient manner, the per capita costs are going to go down, and because the patients aren't having to stay in the ED so long. So next I will turn it over to my team member, and thank you for your attention.